Hello, welcome back. This is Miniature Mike, and we're going to continue on with our series, taking a look at characters. And as you can see, we're going to look at Kit Fisto. This is one of the couple that I proposed recently that was voted on. Number one was Emperor Palpatine, and then there's a tie between Solo and Kit Fisto. And so I figured, what better time to jump in and take a look at them. So it should be a kind of a quick video since there's only 3 Kit Fistos to go through. But they all are pretty similar, and like they have similar theme, I should say, and I'll kind of execute that theme a little bit differently. But without further ado, let's jump right into it and see what we got. So first things first, we got the original Kit Fisto from Clone Strike. So we're looking at about 120, 20, 13, and 20 at cost 32. He's just melee attack, nothing more than that. Force powers, Force 4, lightsaber precision. On top of that, got sweep as well, and then he has a kind of a quirky commander effect where non-unique followers within 6 squares get +4 attack against wounded enemies. So we'll get back to that in just a little bit. So from what you can see overall, I actually think he's like good to fair. I mean, I rated him at 2.9 after kind of my equation put everything together. So he's fine. I think he has some nice things working for him, but he's dated and you probably will never use him. But he could be fun to use in a fun squad sometime. So his hit points are exceptional. For a person who costs 32, having 120 hit points is actually kind of wild because most people at this cost range who are like melee attack, they tend to have like 80, 90, maybe 100 hit points, kind of more in that lower range. And one thing you'll notice is a lot of where the Clone Strike and even Rebel Storm characters, kind of, especially Clone Strike, where they miss out with like interesting powers and things like that and multiple attacks, they typically actually have pretty crazy raw stats, just kind of, which is, on one hand, you'd like to have a lot of interesting powers to work with, but his raw stats are actually kind of crazy. So his hit points, 120 is great for his cost bracket. Range survivability in melee, he's got nothing for him. He does have nice hit points, he does have solid defense, but he really doesn't have any powers, no abilities, nothing to work with necessarily that's going to help him out there. So instead of just giving him a 1, I said let's do 1.5. Let's just say it's bad because he does have some solid stats to help a little bit. His attack though is awesome. So 13 attack on a melee piece. Again, that's about 32. Pretty good, pretty dang good. Max damage is fair. I'm kind of being nice on this one because normally it's 20, but he does have precision, so he can pretty comfortably make that 30 damage. So it's not average, it's below average because there is no multiple attack unless you're doing a crowd attack with sweep. His special abilities, I just said bad. I mean, he just has melee, and doesn't have anything else, so I'll leave it there. Force powers, I think they're good. They're solid force powers. He's got 4 force. They're all offensive. Precision is fine, just that extra 10 damage is not bad, especially if you're just doing 1 attack. Sweep can be nice for kind of what he's for. So what you want to do is kind of give him to a position where you can take advantage of sweep as much as possible. Like you have the great attack, you'll be able to land the damage. So I think these powers suit him well for kind of his limitations. His ability synergy, I'd say, is probably poor. I mean, he just has precision, which is like a nice buff to his attack and stuff, so it's not the worst thing ever, but it's not exceptional. I think his versatility is alright, and the reason I say that is because he does have a commander effect that does kind of suck, in my opinion, but he does have that. He does have solid, really nice stats. He does have force powers that are, nice and usable, so I don't think it's incredible, but it's solid, does the job. I'm not a fan of the commander effect though. So when you look at the commander effect, he's non-unique followers within 6 squares, get +4 attack. There's so many conditions. It's crazy. It's like they have to be non-unique, they have to be followers, have to be within 6 squares, and it has to be against a wounded enemy. So it's like, yeah, it's nice to get the 4 attack. If someone is damaged, then your non-unique followers can have an easier time of finishing them off a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, that's just so many conditions. So not my cup of tea, but again, you could probably work around it however if you wanted to. So overall, I just gave him a 3. I just think he's just kind of like a solid Kit Fisto. I don't think he's bad. I didn't want to rate him at 2.5. I actually was like pretty comfortable with doing this. Blue Milk does a 7, so that's slightly above average for Blue Milk scores. And I call him a crowd duelist. I hope I spelled that right. We'll just say crowd duelist. But he is... It'll be more obvious in the future Kit Fistos, to be honest with you, but with good stats, having sweep, and basically what the other Kit Fistos do. I think Crowd Duelist is just fine, and he's about 14 bucks. So in summary, nice stats for one of the older Jedi. He can be a decent crowd fighter with sweep and the nice stats. And yeah, his commander effect's okay-ish, but it's way too specific for my cup of tea. So let's move on to... Okay, these are kind of funny. We have the next two Kit Fistos. There's Jedi Master Kit Fisto, and the next one is going to be Kit Fisto Jedi Master. So that's kind of a fun, silly kind of gimmick, but maybe they ran out of ideas what Wizards of the Coast did when they're naming these things. So Jedi Master Kit Fisto from Galaxy at War, so now we're moving way in the future. 60 cost, so this guy does cost quite a lot. He's got 130 hit points, 20 defense, 11 attack, 20 damage. And then his special abilities, got melee, he's got double and twin, so it can do that damage. Shicho style, so it's kind of a variation of crowd fighting essentially. 4 attack, 4 defense when there's 3 or more enemies within 6 squares. So this guy becomes a menace against a big group of people. His force powers, he's got precision like the other one did. That's still following him. And then yeah, surprise move. I think that's the reason why he costs so much, is because you're mixing surprise move with twin and double. So you can use surprise move to put yourself in a position, if it works out, to be able to get right up to someone and then, you know, potentially do 80 damage to them. High attack, high defense if you have a lot of enemies. I think that's a bummer though, is like, even with this power, it's good at first, but then it scales down, because as enemies maneuver around you, as you defeat enemies, then you'll lose that 3 or more enemies within 6 squares thing, and then you'll become weaker as the battle goes on. So something to keep in mind, but can be a nice, do a lot of good against a group right off the bat. So overall, he came out to be just a really good score, and there's a few reasons for that. So his hit points, solid. You know, for 130 at cost 60 is pretty normal. His range survivability, in melee survivability, I bumped him up just a little bit over the last guy, and the only reason I did that was because he has surprise move. I think you can leverage that power to, put yourself in position to wait what knocks him out, put yourself in position to get out of harm's way. So I think it is a nice, kind of almost indirect survivability thing, but otherwise I don't think he has much else going for him that way. Which is kind of too bad, because he can put himself in positions to do a lot of offense, but then if you're not careful, he could just get shot up like crazy and die, which is a little scary since he costs so much. So his attack is fair. The tricky thing is 11 attack. I'm kind of balancing it here. 11 attack for someone who costs 16 as melee is actually not that good. However, if you get the bonus with Shicho, then you get a 15, which is actually a little bit above average. However, I was just trying to balance it out as best as I could. So I said, okay, I'll just be fair and say it's a little below average. His max damage, fantastic. Being able to dish 80 and the way he can dish it is really good. His special abilities are great. Being able to have double and twin is nice. So this guy is really nice kit for taking out a lot of people in crowd situations. His ability synergy is great, especially the way you can do Shicho, double and twin. You could even use precision if you need to in some situations. I kind of feel it's just kind of thrown on there, but I really like how they all work together. So he's really geared to just kill those crowds. That's all I can say. His versatility is solid. It's not, I think the thing that if he didn't have surprise move, I'd bump it down a lot. He's just kind of more of that almost kind of glass cannon-y thing where you move into position and just dish damage out to groups. Not necessarily amazing at other things, but surprise move can help him be a little bit more versatile. And as Kit Fistos go, I just gave him a great score. Maybe a little bit too much, but I think as Kit Fistos go, I think he's better than the last one. Blue Milk, give him a 7.81, so a solid score for Blue Milk. However, I think the score I gave him is actually probably roughly the same. Specialties, Crowd Duelist, and then about $15 on eBay. None of these guys are too expensive. They're all about $15. So in summary, a very nice crowd fighter. I think he might cost a lot for if you're trying to put a squad together. You're spending 60 on a guy who has some cool moves to get into positions, dish a lot of damage out. But if you're not careful, he could get shot up pretty quick. And doesn't have a lot of defensive capabilities, which is a little tricky. So I think there's some really cool, interesting things. If you put him with the right squad, of course, I think you can get a lot of good stuff out of him. You could, I'm trying to think of some interesting ones. Like if there's ways that maybe you can swap him with Pananka, get him into a spot, and then use surprise move to get him the rest of the way, maybe before. I don't know. I just think if you can pair him with the right squad, put him in the right group, you can maximize his strengths and maybe minimize those weaknesses. So nice thing is he is a follower, so you could probably put some cool commander effects on him. So that's Jedi Master Kit Fisto. Excuse me. Now we're going to talk about Kit Fisto Jedi Master. Yeah, that's a silly name. But this one I think I like a little bit more. So you sacrifice the twin attack. However, you move surprise move to a special ability as in intuition, which is a lot better. And then you give him some defense, which is kind of sweet. And he's way cheaper. So this guy, he's 42. He's Masters of the Force, 130, 20, 13, and 20. So he's got the same stats as before. However, the attack's buffed up a little bit. And then melee attack, double attack, and then you lose twin, you keep Shicho, but you have intuition now. And so that's so much better because with surprise move, you have to be more deliberate about when you use it. Now you get to have that ability at all times, which is fantastic. So I think that's a huge upgrade for him. Even losing twin attack and adding this one instead is okay. I think it works out, especially because the cost is so much cheaper. And so overall, with the Shicho, now you can 17 attack and 24 defense, whereas before it's just maxes out at 15. So your attack is better in the long run, and in crowds you're guaranteed to hit every single person in the crowd, which is pretty automatic and pretty nice. So his force powers, force 4, just like before. He has block and sweep this time. So I kind of like these overall. I know the powers aren't exactly super sexy. However, block, very helpful. You have a little bit more defense than you had before. And then sweep, it is kind of nice since he loses the twin attack. If you ever find yourself in situations where you move yourself into intuition, maybe around 3 people, 4 people, something like that, then you can take advantage of Shicho and sweep and blast a few things. So that could be kind of fun. So kind of a really good use of sweep, honestly. I feel like sometimes people have sweep and it's like not that great. It's like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to use that all that often. But for him, it's like he's really kind of worked around it. This guy wound up to be a great score, 3.89. I think his hit points are great. For 42, you still have 130 hit points, and so that's really good. His range survivability and melee is improved. I'd say the reason mostly why it's improved is because you have block now, and then you also have intuition. So instead of intuition being something you have to pay for, now you can just do it all the time. That's really good. And then block is going to help you in those melee situations. Because the last one, in fact, the last 2, they were really missing that any defense at all. So this is a big help for sure. His attack, still really good. 13 is not very nice. His max damage is fine. It's kind of not as good as it was before because they're just doing normal double attack, but still solid. His ability synergy, I think, is awesome. Like, it's awesome because intuition's even better. You can move yourself into position to take advantage of Shicho. You could use sweep if you want to, or just double. It's really, yeah, I think a lot of these things gear very nicely to what his crowd duelist, crowd fighting thing is all about. I think he's still very versatile, especially since I know he's kind of geared towards be crowd fighter. However, having the block helps, having the intuition bumps his kind of overall versatility up quite a bit, so that's good. And then no commander effect. His Kit Fisto score, I gave him a 4.5. I didn't think he was like certified 5 incredible crazy character, but like he's good. He's a really nice guy, really good character. I got him more recently, so I haven't really used this character on honestly all that often or that much, but I do like what I see here. It'd be kind of fun to put him in some interesting squad maybe. I really would rather make a squad with the last Kit Fisto. I think it would be more of a fun challenge to figure out how to take advantage of his strengths and maybe minimize the weaknesses, but overall I'd say he is a better Kit Fisto. And I think that's kind of the consensus. I mean, Blue Milk would seem to agree with that as well. And you lose twin attack, but you also slash the cost and you kind of have better stuff in general to work with. So in the end, I think he kind of wins out. So let's take a look at the summary. Where are we at? There it is. So starting in last place, Kit Fisto 2.9, Jedi Master Kit Fisto 3.58, and then as pretty obvious, Kit Fisto Jedi Master. That's so confusing. Oh my gosh. 3.89, really nice scores, especially for that last one. And then here's the summary table I'll list right here. Let me minimize myself so you can see it easier. overall, these guys, they're all crowd fighters. They have that Shicho style thing going on where if you get them with enough people, their stats, he becomes kind of a pain to deal with. And their intuition / surprise move is a really nice thing to kind of take that initiative regardless of what happens in initiative. And then just kind of leverage it, take advantage of the situation, go and slice up a bunch of people. This guy can do really nice against those crowds. So if you're against a squad that's not really crowd heavy, it's not the end of the world, especially on the second one, Kit Fisto Jedi Master. Well, even both of them, it's not that big of a deal. You're going to miss the Shicho, but at least you have other powers to deal with. But anyway, I try to use some of those situations if you sense it's coming. But overall, Kit Fisto, a fun Jedi. This is just kind of the beginning of these Jedi on the Jedi Council. There's a ton of Jedi on the Jedi Council to get to. He's pretty cool because he has 3 variants. So if there's other ones I do where there's, say, just 2 variants, I might maybe hit a couple of them at once or something like that. Like Caddy Mooney just has one, so I might, say, mix him with a couple other people as well, depending on just kind of what I feel like, how it gets to it, especially who's requested. So anyways, with that being said, please like, please subscribe. And again, please comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about all these various Kit Fistos. Also, please let me know what you think would have been a better name for Kit Fisto Jedi Master rather than just switching it around. I'm sure you can think of a lot of ones. I've even heard a couple good ones myself. So I'll leave it there. Anyways, until next time, everyone, have a good one.